Hamza Said, your host. I welcome you all to our second episode of Women Healthcare Professional Resource Podcast. Our theme for today's podcast is gender equity. Today, we have a very special guest from pharmacy profession, Miss Nadia Bukhari. Miss Nadia is a renowned academic pharmacist at UCL School of Pharmacy. She is renowned within healthcare professionals both in UK and internationally for her campaigns to support the role of pharmacists and specifically to drive forward opportunities for women in pharmacy. In countries such as Pakistan, UAE, Oman, Poland, Greece, Brazil, Portugal, Italy, and many more. Ms. Nadia has also been recognized for her outstanding contributions to the profession by the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. She is the youngest female and the youngest Asian to be awarded the status of Fellow of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. Ms. Nadia is also the first Muslim woman to have been elected onto the National Pharmacy Board for England. She is also the global lead for gender equity at the International Pharmaceutical Federation and has also founded the National Alliance for Women in Pharmacy in Pakistan. In addition to that, Nadia is also the chief pharmacist of Doctors, Pakistan's leading telemedicine healthcare provider. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. How are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm very well, and firstly, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast today.
It's a great pleasure for us to be having you on our podcast. Now we'll start off with our first question. Ma'am, according to you, is gender equity basically an issue for women healthcare professions, specifically in Pakistan?
So, what I'd like to say is, I don't think gender equity is just an issue in Pakistan when it comes to healthcare. This is a global issue. As we know, more than 70% of the global healthcare workforce are women, and we're not seeing that sort of representation in leadership positions. And this is a global statistic, and this is a global issue. So this is not just a problem that we see in Pakistan in the healthcare workforce. This is a widespread worldwide problem.
Yeah, exactly. According to you, what major barriers do you think women healthcare professionals face in Pakistan?
So if we sort of zone in a bit then and look at Pakistan specifically, and here again, I don't like singling out Pakistan as a country. I'd say the South Asian subcontinent, and we see a lot of social and cultural barriers when it comes to women going back into the workforce. And obviously we're speaking about healthcare here specifically. So we see obviously, once girls have completed any of their healthcare subjects, be it pharmacy, medicine, dentistry, they tend to get married. And then there's a whole load of issues after that, whether their in-laws will let her marry, or once she has children, then who's going to take care of the children if she goes back to work. And there's this sort of stigma, if you like, that women can't have a career and be a homemaker at the same time. And this is sort of something that's very commonly seen in the South Asian subcontinent. And you will also see this globally too, but I think even more so in the South Asian subcontinent. So, that is one of the barriers as well. And I think you're trying to sort of coerce me to say, is it because the men are stopping the women? And in my experience, that's not so, but I'm sure you have more questions and I can expand on that later. But yes, there are lots of cultural and social barriers in the South Asian subcontinent for women to go back into the workforce.
Yeah, my next question is also like, do you think the culture of different provinces in Pakistan acts as a barrier?
So from my travels within Pakistan, and I come here very often, I do lots of field visits, I do a lot of community work as well as my sort of healthcare hat that I wear. So I absolutely do see that between provinces there is a huge cultural difference as well. But then I think education has a huge hand to play as well. So within these provinces, the communities that are more educated, you probably will see less of an issue when it comes to women being in the workforce.
What value skill set do you think Pakistani women healthcare professionals possess?
So from my visits, my engagements that I've had within, I can only speak for the pharmacy sector, and the female pharmacists that I've come across in Pakistan, they are resilient, they're hardworking, determined, and they actually really want to achieve and reach heights. So when I then sort of hear some of the case studies firsthand, when I speak to some of these women, female pharmacists, who actually have a lot of things going on in the background, from in the home, with the husband, with the in-laws. It's a shame to see that, their dreams sometimes can't be fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. How often do you see Pakistani women healthcare profession in a leadership position or a position of authority, maybe?
So there are women in leadership positions in healthcare in Pakistan, but there are few and far between, unfortunately. And like I said to you before, when you've got more than 70% of your healthcare workforce being women, we need to see that representation in leadership positions, and we're not seeing that. Now, variety of reasons, like I said to you, such as social cultural barriers, but also we need to nurture and mentor these women to get to those leadership positions. And some women will have male mentors, some will have female mentors. So it doesn't mean just because you're a woman you have to have a female mentor. I know some colleagues who have male mentors here in Pakistan, and they're excelling and achieving. Professor Madiha is a great example there. So, we have good examples around us, but I think the other issue we have in Pakistan, there aren't enough female role models who are visible. So we need our women to come forward, we need them to be visible, we want them to nurture future leaders. Because I think the other issue is that some women, and again, this is not just Pakistan, once they do reach leadership positions, they just focus on themselves and their own sort of profile. And my belief is, once you get to a leadership position, you need to be growing the next generation and bringing them up. So I think, women, we've got to really support one another and, try and grow these leaders.
Do you think that Pakistani women healthcare profession get equal opportunity for research?
Okay.
Comparison with men,
Sorry?
Comparison with men.
It's when we look at research here in Pakistan, it's quite male dominated. Academia generally is very male dominated, and this is not just in Pakistan again. I mean, back in UCL as well, we see it's a very male dominated profession. So for women to make their mark, we have to work twice as hard to get there. So the women who do get there, who are in the research arena and are in academia, again, what I just said to you previously, we've got to behave as role models, we've got to grow and nurture and try mentoring the younger generation who want to actually follow our pathway.
Do you think Pakistani women healthcare professionals support their counterparts in their growth? Now exactly that's the question again from you.
And I'm gonna keep re-emphasizing this point here. This is not a Pakistani issue.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is everywhere, and I've worked in many countries and across the board. And I think, and I've said this on many platforms, I think the biggest issue we have when it comes to achieving gender equity is women themselves. We need to support one another, and I've seen it many a time, even personally, that the men in my professional and personal journey have been more supportive than the women that I've had around me. So that's like a note to me as well. Note to self. We all say note to self. Be that woman that helps others and grows others.
Exactly. Now the last question will be, how do you think gender equity barriers can be resolved to encourage more females to join the workforce?
This is a very loaded question, and I don't think that this will even happen for another 2, maybe 3 generations. But the thing is, we've got to start somewhere, and that's exactly what we're doing. I'm doing quite a bit of work within Pakistan when it comes to gender equity in the pharmaceutical workforce. I've launched a gender equity hub called Equity Pakistan, a partnership between UCL and Hamdard University, which is supported by FIP and the British Council. In addition to that, I launched the National Alliance for Women in Pharmacy in Pakistan as well. Right? So you've got to start somewhere. The problem we have is people just sit there and moan and say, ye issue hai, ye masla hai, but no one does anything about it. And one quote that I sort of really strictly adhere to is, be the change you want to see. So even if I can change the mindset of 1 or 2 people, wo phir aage jaake badhega. So if we all thought like that, then maybe we can create change. But creating change takes time, takes generations. So I don't know how long it will take, but we have to keep going. Inshallah.
That was our last question. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your precious time.
My
It
pleasure.
was such an interesting podcast, and our viewers will be so inspired to hear about the work being carried out for gender equity. Thank you so much for your time. Any last messages you want to give?
So my last message would be, especially for our females within the health workforce out there, keep going. There are good days, there are bad days, especially if you are a career woman and a family woman as well. So from my own personal experiences, there are days where you just feel like you want to just give it all up. But just take it a day at a time, and inshallah you will get there.
And to our viewers, I would like to say stay to our YouTube channel for more podcasts acknowledging and showcasing the achievements of our dynamic and marvelous women healthcare professionals in Pakistan. Also subscribe to our website www.WHPRH.com. Take care and Allah Hafiz.